What's going on, guys? It's Brad with DFS City, and in this video I'm going to be providing you with a 3-step home run betting strategy that is guaranteed to help you make better decisions for any given game. Step 1 is what I like to refer to as the 2 R's, recent form and riding the hot hand. If there's one thing I've learned about baseball after watching the sport for 2 decades, it's that you're better off riding positive momentum rather than fading a hot player or hot team. Although baseball is a team sport, the result of any given game is largely due to the performance of individual players, so we want to look at these 2 factors together. So how do we identify recent form in players that are considered hot? Well, there's several ways to go about this, but I'm going to give you 2 ways that you can keep track. One way to keep track of home runs every day is to put notifications on for automated social media accounts that track every home run. There's several of these out there, but the one I use is MLB Home Runs by Roto-Grinders on X. Another way is to use specific search queries on AI stat platforms or any platform that allows you to pull this type of data. I usually like to use a date range between 2 weeks and a month, but just as an example, I'm going to pull up StatMuse and search MLB Home Run leaders this month, and with the click of a button, you'll see who's hitting the most home runs over an entered time period. Step 2 involves using certain hitting metrics and matchup data to essentially check another box off before placing any bets. We'll start out by talking about ISO, or isolated power. ISO is tracked by subtracting a player's batting average from their slugging percentage. It's a key metric when we're talking about home runs because isolated power gives you the likelihood of a player hitting an extra base hit. Ideally, we want to target guys who have an ISO above 0.2, or guys that are recording an extra base hit about 20% of the time. The second part of the equation helps us really tie things together here. Now that we know how to calculate ISO, we can take a look at matchup data for power hitters against any given pitcher. Instead of trying to explain this step of the process, I'm just going to walk you through it making up a theoretical matchup here. Let's say, for example, we have Clayton Kershaw pitching for the Dodgers against the San Diego Padres. The first thing I'm going to do is wait for starting lineups to be confirmed, but this usually happens pretty early in the MLB. The next thing I'm going to do is look at Clayton Kershaw and say, okay, I know he's a left-handed pitcher. Historically, he's really good, but let's see if the Padres have anybody that has the upper hand here. I have 3 tabs open now to show you how this is done in the simplest way possible. Tab 1, I'm on StatMuse, and I'm going to start my search with Padres players by ISO 2024. This will give us ISO data for all player at-bats for the Padres this season, and this is our starting point for identifying the primary power hitters. In this case, Kyle Higashioka, Manny Machado, and Jurickson Profar have the highest isolated power numbers on the team over a large sample size. This is great, but it doesn't help us with the actual matchup, so I'm going to go over to my second StatMuse tab and run back the same query with a little twist. Considering Kershaw is a lefty, I'm going to search for Padres player ISO against left-handed pitching in 2024 and see what we come up with. So here's where things really get interesting because the same 3 guys with good isolated power overall are also the same 3 guys that are popping against left-handed pitching. This won't always be the case, but regardless, it's a great way to cross-check whether a hitter is truly in a good spot on a given night. Here, the most interesting data point is Higashioka getting an extra base hit against lefties more than 30% of the time, while Profar and Machado are right around that key 20% level. Right off the bat, all 3 of these guys stand out, but there's just a couple more factors we need to consider. On the third tab, I have StatMuse pulled up again, but this time we're going to go even more specific with the queries and look at each of the prospects individually. You can do this by starting with the player's name and then adding career against Clayton Kershaw. Let me show you how it works. We'll put in Manny Machado career versus Clayton Kershaw, and as you can see, everything is lining up here because Machado has fairly good history against Kershaw. 2 of his 10 hits against Kershaw have been homers, and he's got just about a .17 ISO. If we do the same thing here with Profar and Higashioka, we'll find that Profar has been pretty good, but the power isn't there, while Higashioka has no history against Kershaw. All this process does is help you identify who's most likely to have success in a certain game environment. This isn't a cheat code by any means, but at the minimum it can give you a better idea of what to expect. After a deep dive of this theoretical matchup, it's clear that Manny Machado would be the best bet to hit a home run. The last thing I'll mention regarding this step of the process is that you need to be careful when you're reviewing player ISOs, because you're likely to see guys pop up with a high ISO who don't hit a lot of home runs in general. This is typically a case where doubles and triples are inflating the power numbers, so you'd probably want to steer clear of these hitters if they pop up. The last step I'll touch on, but very briefly, is situational betting. I want to preface this by saying this step of the strategy is more narrative-based than data-based, so you could take it with a grain of salt if you want, but I've seen it work out numerous times. When I say situational betting, I basically mean taking advantage of external factors such as playoff pictures, records that are about to be broken, or even players going against their former team. Once again, I'll make up a theoretical situation, and also look at some past examples to show you what I mean. As we all know, Shohei Ohtani was traded to the Dodgers after becoming the face of the Angels franchise. It'd be dumb to think that Ohtani has any sort of hatred towards the Angels, but we gotta remember that this is baseball, and nothing would taste better than hitting a dinger against your old team to remind them who's boss. And then, almost as if it was written in the stars, Ohtani hits a home run in each of his first 2 games against the Angels in June of this year. Now, we can't sit here and say Ohtani is a lock to hit a home run just because he's facing his old team, but from a common sense perspective, we have to assume that he's going to want to hit one just to show out. This is precisely what I mean by situational betting. We can use external factors to determine that something has a higher likelihood of happening. You can look for any type of narratives you want, but one of my other favorites is scalping record-breaking performances. Let's say, for example, you have a guy like Ronald Acuna who's on the verge of hitting his 50th home run of the season. This is obviously a big milestone, and it's usually reached later in the season, so this would be a case where we're looking for something to happen soon. In this situation, I'd start looking for the best opportunities to bet Acuna for a home run, and then wager accordingly. That just about wraps up this video. To recap, step 1 of the process is to consider the 2 R's, recent form and riding the hot hand. Step 2 is to use isolated power and matchup data to determine the most likely home run hitters in a given game. And step 3 is situational betting, which is fairly self-explanatory and can't always be applied. If you approach the MLB with all of this information in mind, you'll feel a lot more confident about your home run picks going forward. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if it was helpful for you, please leave a like or a comment to let me know. My channel has a bunch of sports betting content, so I encourage you to check that out as well. Take care.